1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These are all my works in progress. Today I want to show you, well, all of these, what I'm currently knitting. And I also wanted to show you some things that I've recently finished, like this chicory sweater. Well, actually, this wasn't me who finished this. This was a sample knitter who finished this. Yeah, the chicory sweater in just one color, a really cool, this hand-dyed yarn together with then some merino. And it has these frills and it just looks so different than the original chicory sweater had these stripes. And I thought it would be really fun to get the discussion even further and take it down in the comments. So I'm gonna be reacting to some spicy knitting opinions because, believe it or not, there are some spicy things out there, and there might be some things that actually stir the pot a little bit. So I've been seeing lots of these videos recently here in the YouTube space and kind of around knitting podcasts. So I thought I will jump in, give my take on them, and then I would love to hear your opinions on these as well. So, but yeah, grab your knitting project, maybe a drink or a snack, and let's dive into this spicy and hopefully inspiring video of all things knitting. I think I want to start by showing you what I have on, or the thing that I'm now working on that I'm trying to really finish. It is a seashore skirt in this beautiful, beautiful chocolate brown shade. So the seashore, oh, such a word, like, why did I name my pattern seashore? It is very hard to say. Seashore skirt. So in the previous video I showed you where I did the seashore blouse, or designed that. So that is this blouse here. And actually we could take a spicy opinion right here, which is blocking is optional. That is the opinion. Now I think with blocking, so basically blocking means that you soak your finished project when it's done before you start wearing it. And I would say blocking is optional, yes. So I don't block all my knitted projects. Sometimes I just steam block them, and I do have things that I've never actually washed, because I feel like with wool you don't actually need to wash it so often. But for example, with lace and with cables, I would definitely always block it because this blooms out so much. Let me get you the original seashore skirt, un momento. So here is the seashore skirt, and I'm actually knitting my brown sample to a midi length. So I'm envisioning it go over like calf length, maybe a little shorter than that. But I just know that when I block this, it's gonna bloom out a lot. The lace is just gonna open. I mean, maybe a little hard to see on camera, the difference, but it does make a huge difference. So blocking is optional. I would say yes, to a degree, yeah. Okay, that was knit number 1. Okay, next spicy opinion is test knitting should always be paid. This I feel is a pretty spicy one, and I'm gonna share my take on it. So let me show you. As I mentioned before, the chicory sweater, this was done by a sample knitter. This one is also a chicory sweater. It's in black. This was also done by a sample knitter. Now these sample knitters, I paid. I sent them the yarn, they knitted it for me, and then I paid them basically to get the sample back. And I feel with test knitting, like, I understand why you would feel that that should always be paid, but I don't know, then it should be, because when, okay, so my take on this is when I do test knitting, it's pretty, I would say, loose and flexible, the terms, in sense of people get the pattern, which is not yet a finished pattern, so there might be mistakes. So that's kind of the premise of the whole project. And then I'd like to get feedback on the pattern. But if for some reason you can't make it, or you know, can't make the deadline and things, like, I'm super flexible with that. I like understand that things might happen, and I usually choose a lot of test knitters because I just want to make sure that the pattern, like, try to catch as many mistakes as possible, so to get beginner knitters and maybe more experienced, because I feel beginners and experienced knitters, they look at a pattern a bit differently. Like, beginners might point out things that might be confusing to them that maybe an experienced knitter doesn't really catch. So I think it is good to have that scope of different level knitters, and to be able to do that, if you would have to pay all the test knitters, I don't know if that would be possible. Especially I'm thinking when you're starting out, or smaller, or designers with a smaller maybe audience, or you don't have so many the resources to do that. I think it would be tricky, because then it would basically make it not as fair maybe for everybody. I don't know. Like, then again, for like with yarn brands and maybe knit designers who are more established, like, sure, of course, like, work, I'm definitely of the opinion that work should be paid also in the crafting space, because it's so easy to take advantage of it. But I don't know, I think with test knitting it's tricky, I think, because okay, you get the pattern essentially, because usually they are, you know, like, often there aren't maybe that big of errors in them, and then you get to keep the piece for yourself, so it's almost like, you know, you get like a pattern for free. But yeah, I don't know, I'd like to hear your opinion on this. I just think that with test knitting, it's different than sample knitting. That is basically my take. So with sample knits, of course, I would never ask anybody to knit something for me where I actually get the piece, but when you actually get the piece for yourself, I think it's okay that it's, you know, you get the pattern. You get to be part of the group, you get to see behind the scenes, you get to, you know, make sure that the pattern is really good when it's released. So I'm always very grateful for all the test knitters help I get. But if it would have to be paid, it would just be, I think, more difficult, because that would narrow it down. You couldn't take as many test knitters, of course, and then it would be much more rigid. Like, then you really need to get the comments and the feedback. So I don't know. I like to keep it this way, but yeah, I'm sure this is gonna cause some debate in the comments below. Next opinion, knitting the pattern more than once. I am definitely team yay on this, and this brings me to my next work in progress, which is the Darling cardigan, which I have. This is my 4th Darling cardigan. I've started knitting this already at least a year ago, because I remember when Edwin was really tiny, I was knitting this. This is in cashmere, so I have spent so much money buying yarn for this. It's Cardiff, yeah, 100% natural cashmere classic, and I only lack one sleeve, and this is so soft. I've even done the button band. So this one, I just really need to finish it. I need to, you know, it's gonna take me maybe 2 or 3 evenings, and then I know that I'm going to be wearing this so much. So I just really want to finish this. But yeah, I definitely would say, I mean, I like to knit my own patterns many times. I've knitted the Solid Day sweater multiple times, Arctic Light sweater multiple times. Now I'm knitting the Seashore, the full set. Again, Sailor Swift, Love Letter, you name it. Like, I've knitted so many of my patterns many times. I think it's I think it's really nice. Cinema sweater also many times. Wishbone sweater 3 times. So yeah, but I'd love to hear your opinion on this. What do you think? waste of yarn, waste of time, or do you also do it? Ooh, okay, next one. You don't need to finish your VIPs before starting a new one. You already know my opinion. No, you don't. I always have many things going on at the same time. I just yesterday actually cast on this little, well, it's very tiny. It doesn't really look like much yet. It's gonna be a top, a summer top. I actually picked up this cotton yarn from this shop called Søstrene Grene, which I think it's maybe only in Scandinavia we have it, but yeah, just out of interest to see what this yarn is like. I really felt like this was the perfect shade of pink, very much the same as my Ticoteers wear at the moment, because I always struggle to find like a perfect kind of pale blush color that isn't too yellow. Like I often find they're a little too yellow or a little too saturated for my taste. So yeah, we'll see. But this is going to be I'm envisioning a very simple top. Okay, next spicy opinion. Ravelry is outdated. Now, I think Ravelry is such a wonderful resource for knitters and crocheters. As a knit designer, I really like it because it just gives me access to this huge pool of people searching for patterns. I would say maybe in terms of design and the aesthetic feel, I would say maybe it's slightly outdated. I think that could be probably improved, and that's maybe not such a spicy take on it. I think in terms of like how you can search for things, it's super advanced, really superior to anything else, and just the broad scale of patterns and just designs that are on the platform, I don't think anything else really can trump that. So I think Ravelry actually isn't outdated. I think it's there are these people who use Ravelry, and then there are maybe people who've knitted for a long time who've never heard of it. But I would love to hear your opinion. What do you think of Ravelry? Do you use it? I know that I have my patterns on Kutovakika.com, which is my web shop, and then on Ravelry. And each month, people buy my patterns more on Ravelry, and I think it's because you or people like to have the patterns in their library. You can go there, find them, download them, even after, you know, maybe you don't have them on your laptop anymore and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's a very interesting one, I would say. Okay, let me show you a project here. In between, this is just a simple top-down raglan sweater that, well, I only need to, I think I'm gonna continue the body slightly, and then I'm just gonna make, yeah, regular long sleeves. I envision this to be my like super cozy sweater. I've been in this blue phase for quite some time now, so I'm really, yeah, I really actually want to continue this now when I get it up from my project bag. And I'm using, I get so much hair in my mouth. I'm using a combination of actually new yarns, and this actually brings me to my next opinion. You don't need to swatch gauge if you've used the yarn before. Now, I would say yeah. I don't usually do swatches if I've used the yarns before, but to be completely honest with you, I have not used this combination before, and I did not swatch gauge for this one at all, because I could kind of tell from the thickness of these yarns. I could estimate what my gauge will be, and it's been fine. It's turning out really good. I'm using a combination, so this is by Fonti Moustache and Fonti Saperlipopette, which is, I think this is a combination of baby suri and silk and then some fine wool, and it actually almost creates the same effect as mohair. And speaking of mohair, mohair is scratchy or itchy. That is something that you always hear people say. It's always this opinion that gets talked about. So with this one, for example, I chose this because I feel like this is super soft. Like this does not have that scratch one bit. With mohair or silk mohair, specifically that I use a lot in my projects. For example, this is one that I've actually shown in a video before, but it's still a work in progress, so I'll show it again. This is my croissant sweater. Or croissant sweater, and I'm using one strand of silk mohair in this one. I really feel like it depends on what silk mohair you use. I think the ones that I prefer are, well, Knitting for Olive is, I think, very soft, and usually it also softens up once you've worn it a few times. This one by Gepard, Kid Zeta, I think is very soft as well. I can wear a t-shirt. Like I wouldn't be able to wear just like a tank top underneath a sweater like this, especially if it's kind of tight, but a t-shirt I could do with, and especially if it's a little bit more loose, then I'm good. But I would actually say, for example, Sandnesgarn Thun Silk Mohair, I feel it's too scratchy. I think that one is not as great as Knitting for Olive, for example, or this one. Also Filcolana Tilia, I feel, is quite soft, and there are Crea Deluxe has one, which is also really soft. And Isagar silk mohair is also, I think, very, very soft. Drops has one, and I think that one is quite scratchy. So it really depends. And unfortunately, often, I mean, you can kind of, you know, I go around in yarn just like this. Sometimes the owners don't like that. But you can kind of try and, you know, rub it and see. And usually we'll feel if it's scratchy or not. But I would love to hear your opinion. Do you think mohair is itchy? Do you use mohair or not? I do have one really good alternative for if you don't like it and you just cannot stand it. So I have worn, oh, this is a bag with multiple projects, but I don't think I'm gonna show you all because I think some of these I'm not gonna actually ever finish. So I'll just show you this one. This is also, I've just started a raglan top-down sweater. I'm not sure about the color. I am using 3 strands of different yarns and I'm just not sure. But the thing that I wanted to talk about is I have tried, for example, in the coffee run sweater that's in my book and also in the Basically Perfect sweater, I used 1 strand of this alpaca, like a very kind of thin alpaca. Okay, then I also had a silk mohair, but that's beside the point. But this alpaca kind of acts almost like a silk mohair. So if you don't like that, if it's too itchy, you could maybe try this as an alternative. This is from Filcolana. It's called Alva, I think. I could be wrong, but yeah, Filcolana has one, and Sannes Garn has one as well, and I'm sure other brands have them as well. Okay, this bag. Let's just say we went through that. Every knitter hates weaving in ends. I don't. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I actually kind of find it relaxing. I like to see it's like a quick result. So I don't mind weaving in ends at all. Okay, if you have lots of them, like in the stripe pipe dress, there were so many ends to weave in. That was maybe a little bit annoying, but I would do it as I went along. I feel like that gives me a better rhythm, so I don't leave it all until the last moment. So yeah, I don't mind it. My next project is a project that I just started, and I didn't really know maybe what it's gonna turn into or what it was gonna turn into. It's still a little bit undecided, but it's just, I started from down or from bottom up, which I usually don't do. This is, I'm using 2 strands of Knitting for Olive pure silk held together in this color called Putty, I think. And yeah, I think this is going to be like a bit of an oversized top. But I'm not sure yet. We'll see. But I mean, I just wanted to knit something. Like sometimes it's just, you just want to knit something like simple, basic, start something new. And that was one of these moments where, yeah, I just started it, but we'll see what it's gonna end up as. Ooh, okay. My next project, I have an opinion that is kind of, well, it really is fitting for this project. Knitting has a class problem nobody talks about. So sometimes you hear that knitting is kind of elitist and it takes a lot of money and this kind of yarn snobbery which goes around, and the project I'm gonna show you is maybe in that category because this is my sophisticable cardigan, which I've also, I think, shown once on this channel. And I have used so much silk mohair for this because I'm using 2 strands of silk mohair and 1 strand of alpaca silk. And of course, to complete a project like this, it quickly can become quite pricey, which can, of course, then bring this image of knitting being something that is only for, you know, that it takes a lot of money, essentially. But okay, there is some truth to that, I think, if you want to, or, you know, when you see these very like cashmere and silk mohair being used. But I do actually think that there are some affordable options out there. For example, drops, I feel, maybe not all of their yarns, some that I've tried, I think stand the test of time better than others, but a lot of them are very affordable. I think they're pretty accessible in many parts of the world. They have also a lot of like free resources on their website. So for example, Drops Air, Drops this kid silk, the brushed kid silk is I think, really good. Nepal is really good. They have an alpaca, what is it just called alpaca, I think. All really, really good options. And they are, yeah, much more affordable than some other brands. And especially, well, this is the problem, of course. Then we get to all like these indie dyers. And, you know, some might say that you should really support them. I definitely feel sometimes the pressure as a knit designer, because I of course want to support smaller makers, small indie brands and dyers, but they can often be quite pricey. So then it's always thinking about that balance of, okay, if I use this yarn in a sweater, it's going to be quite pricey, which maybe will turn off people because it's like, oh, but that's going to cost me 200 euros or dollars to make, and I don't want to spend that much money on this, or I can't afford to spend that much money on something that I'm not sure if I'm going to use, and all these things. But in the end, I think where I stand with this is that I've just noticed that my own handmade sweaters, which have very good material, I mean, it just feels different to wear. I also take care of them much better. I know that they're gonna be in my closet for many, many, many years because, you know, they are all natural fibers. So I just feel like, yeah, it's a tricky one. I can understand it. And also, I'm not the kind of person, I mean, I don't really use acrylic yarns. I know in sock yarns, like, you often use nylon just because it makes it a little bit sturdier. And of course, socks, there's a lot of wear and tear on them, so to prevent holes and things. And I think that's totally fine. Also, I think it's always a little bit depending on context, to be honest. If it's something, if you're very new to knitting, maybe you don't want to spend, 100 euros on some cashmere yarn for a project that is your, maybe your first project and you don't really know how it's going to turn out. Maybe not. That's maybe not the place to spend. But then when it's a pattern, especially if you've knitted a few times, you really know, like, I need just a white, sweater in my closet. I know I'm going to wear that so much. I'm going to go out and splurge, like, for example, with my White Darling cardigan, because I know I'm going to be wearing that so much. So it's going to be worth the money, the effort, and the time that I put into it. Okay, but I would love to hear your opinion on this, because it's definitely interesting. And of course, yeah, I don't know, different parts of the world. I live in Finland. Here it's very easy to get access to yarn. We're a nation that knits a lot, and I'm sure that's also different in different parts of the world. Okay, my last project and also my last spicy knitting opinion is nobody needs that much yarn. So basically talking about your yarn stash, shaming that. Should you just try to use the yarns that are in your stash? Is it okay to buy new yarn? And here is my last project I want to show you. This is the late checkout sweater. This is the third sample. This was actually a sample knitter who knitted this for me, or I started it, then I sent it to her. She finished the body, one sleeve, and then actually we didn't have enough yarn, so she sent it back to me. I went and bought some new yarn, and I only have a little bit of the sleeve left. And yeah, this is the late checkout sweater. I have a full tutorial here on YouTube, a very, very nice beginner-friendly project, but I'm definitely of the opinion that yarn, it's kind of like a hobby. I think going into a yarn shop, I forget all my troubles. I get so inspired. There's so much potential around me, just so much joy. And yes, just to the conversation in the previous one about when you buy yarn, I mean, it can get a little expensive, but I'm actually, of course, you should always like use reason and, better to, not go hungry, but you have a lot of yarn. Like, I would always take food before yarn, so to say. But I do think that all the yarns that I have in my stash, even though I sometimes feel guilty for it, and sometimes I feel like, oh, I should not buy new yarn when I have perfectly fine yarn sitting there on my shelf. But sometimes you might buy something, you think that you're gonna knit something with it, maybe then the idea doesn't turn out as you had envisioned. So those things happen, and creativity isn't really something that you can always... Hello, Editing Kika jumping in here. As I was editing this video, I realized that last segment, for some reason, my camera totally cut me off, so I don't have the last little section there, but as I was saying, or as I think I was saying, I was talking about yarn, and nobody needs that much yarn. So in my opinion, actually, I want to think of it as my creative outlet, as something that I shouldn't feel guilty for. Yarns that you purchase now and maybe don't use immediately will still be perfectly good yarn also in a few years' time. So I see it more as an investment and something that sparks joy, and I think it's nice to have a big yarn stash, because then when I get an idea at 11 p.m. in the evening, I have some yarn in my stash. I don't need to go and buy new yarn always. So of course, everything within reason. I don't think it's just to buy yarn for the sake of buying yarn. It's probably not so smart. Also, I have many times done the mistake of buying these single skeins, maybe at a fair or something, and then I'm left with all these random single skeins that I don't really know what to use or do with them. Although some scrap yarn projects like the stripe pipe sweater and some things like this could be really fun to then use those single skeins. But all in all, I think you definitely need that much yarn. That is essentially my opinion. Of course, this is something that everybody gets to choose themselves. I hope you enjoyed this video. I thought it was very fun to make this. I'm so looking forward to reading your comments. Take the discussion down in the comment description below here. As always, you can come and say hi. I'm over at Kutovakika on Instagram, where you'll find more of behind the scenes and things I'm working on. And I would also love to hear your opinion if you thought this video gave you some joy or insight or inspired you, so then I can maybe make this into a series, and let me know if there's some specifically spicy opinions you'd like me to give my take on them. All right, happy knitting, see you in the next one, and yeah, come and say hi over at Instagram, and maybe you want to even click the subscribe button to just know anytime there is a new video here on my YouTube channel. All right, thanks for watching, bye!